Let's leave the entranceway here and let's head up the stairs and see what we can find up there. Okay, let's start in the kitchen. I just want to point out the cabinet doors on the base cabinet underneath the sink. As you can see, they are misaligned. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to adjust these so the gaps between the two doors are consistent with the gaps on the top. Let's have a little close-up look here. You notice that the door or the space between the doors is smaller at the top than at the bottom. I also want to point out that the door here has a bit of a spring to it. So we're going to adjust for that also. Now, I would never allow this in my house, so I've actually just offset it, misaligned it intentionally, just the purpose of this demonstration. Okay, so this is a European style hinge. Actually, this here on top is just the soft closer. We'll just take that out of the way. If you look at the hinge here, there's a couple adjustment screws, and I'm going to go over what those are for. And then you have a mounting plate on the cabinet itself, where there's a couple screws that we can loosen off and adjust that if we have to also. Let's have a look at the first screw here. Now this screw here adjusts the door, obviously the top of the door, because this is the top hinge. It'll adjust the door from left to right. So if I turn the screw counterclockwise, it's going to push the door to the right, or if I turn it clockwise, you can see the hinge going in, it's going to move the door to the left. Now the second screw here, like I was showing you that this wasn't lined up and it was kind of springing down here. This hinge, or this adjustment screw here, as you can see, as I'm turning it clockwise, the hinge is actually going in, which is going to bring the door in. Or if I turn it counterclockwise, it's going to bring the door out. So with those two screws, I'm going to adjust that door so the gaps are all the same all the way around. So I've got the gap between the doors pretty close. I'll do a fine tuning at the end. It's the same as the gap above the right-handed door. But if you notice here, I still have a bit of spring in here. So let's adjust this side of the door. We'll adjust it in, so it'll bring the whole door in, and it will stop that from bouncing like that. So when I'm adjusting this hinge here to bring the far side in, because it wasn't touching the frame. Once again, this brings the door in and out, right? Now if I go in too far, if you watch the door, if I touch the frame, this will buckle here and I won't be able to close the door properly. So sometimes I can't get this in far enough to correct the far side. So what I'll have to do is making sure I have a bit of a gap here. Now because this door is on or beside the dishwasher, I can actually cheat a bit, and I can take this, and if I need the opposite side of the door on the top to go in, then I'll just adjust this so it goes out a little bit. That will bring the opposite corner on a diagonal in. Now once again, you have to keep in mind that if this is beside another cabinet, the bottom door might stick out further than the other one. You might have to adjust that a bit. But sometimes the doors warp, or the cabinet might be a little bit out of square, so there's a lot of fine tuning you can do. But no matter what the situation is, with all these adjustable screws and plates being adjustable, you can line it all up. So with that back screw adjustment, I stopped that from springing. It's nice and flush here. But now the gap here is greater than the door on the other side. So how are we going to adjust that? So we'll have to loosen these screws on the mounting plate, the top and the bottom. Okay, and if you look at the hinge here, it gives me a bit of room to go up and down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push that up. I'll tighten those screws up, and then we'll check out our alignment again. So one more thing I'd like to point out, if you ever have to take this door off, with this style of hinge, this hinge has an easy release lever right here at the back of the hinge, and it's spring loaded, and all you have to do is just pull that forward. The hinge comes forward and you just slide it off, and it's easy as that. Now you notice here that there's a little pin at the back of the hinge here that will slide into the groove here on the mounting plate. So if I was going to reinstall that, I would just push that forward and click that in. Now you could have a European style hinge but doesn't have the quick release on the back. If that's the case, there will be a screw roughly inside this location that you could loosen off that will allow you to adjust the door in and out, so you wouldn't have this feature. And also if you loosen it off enough, you'll be able to slide that hinge right off to be able to remove the door. So when you're reinstalling it, when you slide it back on, just keep in mind the gap here between the door and the frame, because if you slide it in too far, it'll touch the frame and it'll bind when you open the door. And you'll learn that as you do a couple hinges or adjust a couple hinges. It's a beautiful thing. So I'll leave a few links after the video on the different types of hinges and a bit on the adjustment, so you'll know going forward.